Brian, Rob, J. King, and Sam Packard present Steel Bottle, Steel Bottle, Boston at the Steel Bottle, Steel Bottle. Oh yeah! Steel Bottle, Steel Bottle, Boston at the Steel Bottle, Steel Bottle. And a 19. Jaylen Brown, D. White, Crazy Joe. Steel Bottle, Steel Bottle. When Tatum coming back. Steel Bottle, Steel Bottle. Steel bottle, steel bottle, Boston steel bottle, steel bottle. Oh yeah!
Come on, don't get the next generation. Guy wants a win. Don't have no time.
Let's go, you motherfucking Celtics. Let's go, baby. Let's go, you motherfucking Celtics. Let's go.
What up, everybody? It's me, Jay King, from The Athletic, here with Brian Robb from MassLive.com, who is currently setting up his headphones and his microphone in case you hear a little static. Oh, he's back. He's ready. And we're ready. We are still Potable, the greatest Celtics podcast ever. Here 5 days a week at patreon.com/stillpotable if you want to sign up for our daily show. If not, we're here on the CLNS Media Network twice a week, presented by Prize Pick. Today, we are coming to you after Brad Stevens' post-first round of the draft press conference, where normally he would talk about the player the Celtics drafted. Not really tonight. He did talk a little bit about Chris Senack Jr. We'll discuss that a little bit. But the headliner was Jaylen Brown. And Jaylen Brown's situation after the Celtics went after Giannis and included Jaylen Brown in their offer for Giannis. And now, this was Brad's first time discussing that. Jaylen's still on the Celtics. Now he knows he was in trade rumors. From the way Brad discussed it, he let Jaylen know this was a possibility that the Celtics could do this weeks ago. First at the end of May, then they spoke again more recently before Jaylen went on a trip overseas. It's very interesting because the timing. So Brad said that he talked to Jaylen at the end of May, and then again about 10 days ago before Jaylen Brown left for a trip overseas. Now, I could be reading into things here. But 12 days earlier, and Brad said it was about 10 days. 12 days earlier, Jaylen tweeted something about how your neighbor's rice always smells better.
That's right. I forgot about that.
And interesting timing. Let's just say it's interesting timing because it's right around the time he met with Brad Stevens. Anyway, Brad Stevens was very upfront with Jaylen. What was your takeaway from Brad's press conference? It was kind of an interesting press conference. I didn't think he was super open about everything. Obviously, he didn't go into detail much about the conversations themselves with Jaylen. But what were your takeaways from the press conference?
To begin, I thought Brad's demeanor in this press conference was unusual, but expected given what the circumstance was. Like, it wasn't, like you said, a post-draft press conference. You usually get a peppier Brad, if you will. But the subject matter here was different, and it was apparent from that standpoint. With that said, I thought he did a pretty good job of navigating an awkward situation. Acknowledging that, hey, the lines of communication have been open here. Like you said, did they pretty much put the cards on the table with Jaylen before things ramped up in their pursuit? It seems like yes. And the other big thing is just like acknowledging that I'm not sure what's going to happen here, Jay, going forward. Is Jaylen Brown going to be here next year? Who's to say? We're going to keep building around here, him like he is, until he's not, and who's to say when that will happen? So, that was the biggest thing that stood out for me in terms of like, and that's not a surprise at all given how this played out. But just an acknowledgement of being like, yeah, all options are on the table here as we sit and talk on June 24th.
Yeah. And I thought what Brad didn't say was as loud as what he said. He was asked directly whether Jaylen would still be on the team and did not answer directly. He said he's not here to predict the future, and he
loves
suggested
Jaylen.
he suggested basically that he considers this the team, but certainly it wasn't like we're going forward with this team. We were chasing one player and one player only, and that was it. We're gonna bounce back from that and come back with Jaylen and Jason together. Certainly didn't say that, which he could have said. And then he was asked whether Jaylen still wants to stay in Boston long term, like he said he did a month ago on his stream. And Brad was like, just kind of deflected that one too. Said he wouldn't go into the details of his conversations with Jaylen. And I think part of that is Brad, especially in a delicate situation, does not want to speak for people and would never speak for anybody in a situation like this where Jaylen could feel some type of way, probably does feel some type of way. And Brad's not going to sit up there and be like, yeah, Jaylen's great. Like, he's awesome. And just kind of invalidate his feelings, I guess. But from what Brad said, it certainly didn't seem like things are hunky-dory between him and Jaylen, or the Celtics and Jaylen. And that it does seem like they have some things to smooth over right now. Which is not a surprise at all.
Of course not.
And thankfully for them, they have time.
Right.
Like, first game's not till October, assuming Jaylen is on the team at the beginning of the regular season. They have 1, 2, 3, 4 months to figure things out, move past it a little bit. I think 4 months is probably enough time to try to let things smooth over, especially if during those 4 months you offer Jaylen an extension, which he will be eligible for during that time. That's a nice sorry if he gets it. But I also think, like, everything still kind of seems iffy right now. And I think the Celtics do have something to deal with the fallout from the Jaylen Brown situation. I don't think this is like a simple situation, and I'm not surprised at all that Brad was proactive about this and upfront with Jaylen and to talk to him about it long before his name was shared in reports.
You have to if you want to have a chance of salvaging anything.
Yeah. And that also speaks, I think, to how seriously the Celtics pursued Giannis. They were serious enough that they confronted Jaylen Brown about this and told him about it and let him know, yeah, man, look, this is a possibility. You might hear something about it. We're going after Giannis. You're going to be involved in those talks. And I'm making up the details of those conversations. Brad didn't share those, but I'm assuming it went somewhere. If he was honest, then that's what he told him. And he said he was honest and upfront.
And he voluntarily shared that. Like, it was an open-ended question to him. And then he went right being like, yep, we've talked multiple times. And I've kept his agent apprised all along the way. But we've had long, candid conversations, which is code for, by the way, we might be floating you out there as we try to get this superstar in the door to replace you. And so, I don't know. The question is for me now, Jay, like, when you absorb all this and where the Celtics go from here, of the standpoint of, do you feel like it will be, if a move comes here, will it be from the Celtics standpoint of seeing what's out there for Jaylen, or will it be more from a standpoint of being like Jaylen isn't pushing his way out, but these wounds might not heal like they have in the past when situations like this have come up?
So I don't think the Celtics should just move on from Jaylen, even if he is pissed. Just because.
Right.
He has 3 years left on his contract. He has a long relationship with Brad Stevens, who was his coach for the first several years of his career before becoming the president of basketball operations. He respects and appreciates Brad. And I'm sure that even though this probably hurt Jaylen, especially after the year that he had, especially after the burden he carried for the franchise this year with Jason Tatum injured and so many veterans gone, that part of him probably really appreciates the way that Brad went about things. I don't think you get that same honesty in every organization, especially when you're a player of Jaylen's caliber, and especially when the conversation is as hard as, we are going to look into trading you this summer. So I think there's a foundation and a way for him to get back on the same page with the organization. It's happened before in 2022, and it was different then. Since then, he's become a champion. He's become a Finals MVP. He was second team All-NBA this year. He won 56 games basically without Jason Tatum most of the year. Was a leader that everybody hailed inside that locker room as the leader that they followed, and helped set the tone for this year, which was super successful until the first round of the playoffs. I don't think you just say goodbye to that just because he's a little pissed. I think you try whatever you can to salvage it. That said, I don't know if Giannis was the only trade possibility that they would have considered, or maybe that they will consider.
Right.
I do think, obviously, it seemed like they got pretty close on Giannis. It's impossible to know exactly how close they got without hearing from inside the Bucks. But they were seriously involved in those conversations. Got to the end of those conversations. I don't think that's the only thing they would consider for Jaylen Brown. I get the sense that there are other possibilities that they would at least think about. And I don't know exactly what all of those possibilities are. But I don't think this was just isolated to the Giannis pursuit. And if it's not, that's a bigger conversation and could be even more infuriating to Jaylen. But yeah, I think these are just complicated times for the Celtics right now. And you have to navigate the reality that you think you're far from contending again, and that you don't necessarily have a ton of different ways to go after those upgrades unless you move key players or young players you really like. And so they're trying to figure out their way.
Or
and
both.
one way to rearrange things would be to move a guy who is entering his prime, who's coming off the best stage of his career, whose trade value might be the highest it will ever be right now. And that's Jaylen Brown. And so I think they're navigating a lot of things and considering a lot of things, and that this will not be a simple offseason. Obviously, we made it through the draft, though. That's a big night for movement, a big night for trades. Jaylen Brown is still on the Celtics. He probably will be on the Celtics moving forward, but I don't think it's as straightforward for the Celtics this summer as it has been some summers just because of the way they ended in the first round and how much work they think they still have to go.
Yeah, it's I mean, it was kind of a very quiet draft night as far as movement goes. around the league.
Everybody.
Everyone stood pat or just traded down for more picks. And so whether that was just how good this draft class is, everyone to take their guy on the board, or however that is going to play out, we'll find out more in the coming days here, leading the free agency, as trades start to ramp up more with the Giannis roadblock taken care of. But yeah, without a doubt, this was, as you said earlier, Jay, like if Brad wanted to shut down further Jaylen discussion tonight, he could. And
he didn't.
He didn't. And he didn't in a pretty clear way of leaving the door open for, he's on the team now. We love him, but like our door is open. And how Jaylen handles that part of it will be fascinating if it drags on, or maybe something will come across their desk here in the coming days that will bring a abrupt end to the situation. So like everything's in play, and the only thing that could have happened tonight is I think Brad shooting down that part of it. Not that he necessarily would anyway, because like you don't want to say that and then have something come up anyway. So it makes sense to keep options open. But with the damage control they're clearly doing with Jaylen right now, you could have handled it in a way that made a stronger commitment to him in the aftermath of being like, listen, this is just for Giannis. Giannis, we lost out on him, and we're ready to commit to you longer now, Jaylen. But that was not the vibe we got with these comments.
Yeah. And so Brad answered a lot. I think he opened up some more questions. And now the Celtics have to figure out, they still are entering a summer where they need to make improvements.
Gotta get big, man.
Yeah. They have to go out and get somebody big. Obviously, they just got Sanak Jr. He seems like more of a project. Sam Vecini, in his draft guide, said he probably came out at least 1 and maybe 2 years before he'll be ready. So he's 1 year away from being 1 year away. So that's cool. Celtics do have a very good track record of development with centers, especially. They have Robert Williams. Was it the same 27th pick, by the way? He was a hit, but they found Daniel Tice. They have found
Luke Cornett.
Luke Cornett. Like a lot of guys sort of on the scrap heap. But they've done it with sort of every kind of guy. They've done it with guys from overseas. They've done it with college guys. They've done it with scrap heap guys. And they just have a way, whether it's locating the right centers or, developing the right centers, somehow they've been really good at it. And so that gives him a chance alone. And then on top of that, he's just really gifted and physically gifted. Could become, like what he could become is super interesting. And as Brad said, he has a foundation of playing hard and working, and that's a pretty good place to start. That helped Hugo Gonzalez, who everybody thought was going to be super far away. That helped him be an instant impact guy for the Celtics last season because he played really hard. He knew what was going on, and as raw as he still is, he was able to help. And who knows if Sanak will sort of, buck expectations and force his way into Joe Mazzulla's plans next year. I wouldn't expect that. But Ugo kind of did it in a similar situation coming into the Celtics.
Yeah, it'll be a fascinating summer league for him. He'll have some real competition there ready to go, and Amari Williams, who's gonna certainly be playing for a roster spot, if not a two-way spot, in Vegas this summer. So, but that's a pretty athletic front line. That'll be fun to look at and develop over in a couple weeks here. And what could be we'll see what they do at number 40 here, but that should be a fun little roster depending on who else is going to be in action here as far as the young guys go.
Yeah. So one thing Brad did say, he said he thinks they need size and maybe add one more person with speed on the perimeter. Who's out there with speed, B-Rob? Noah Lyles?
Right.
Jalen's hanging out with Noah Lyles.
You're pretty good. Jose Alvarado's going to be a free agent, maybe. Probably not. Yeah, that was an interesting one. And do you hear perimeter? Does that take it more of like a ball handler guard in your mind, or is that just another wing?
To me, I think they need another ball handler.
Yeah.
Because I think you're fine in like a playoff situation with Derek White and Peyton Pritchard. And then obviously Tatum and Brown are going to handle a lot. But to get through 82 and you only play basically two guards, it's tough. So I think they need another. After they traded Anthony Simons, I felt like they needed one more guy, even if it's just an innings eater to come off the bench, give you a change of pace. I feel like they need a guard, just a ball handler. Doesn't necessarily need to be somebody who's going to be in the playoff rotation, but I do feel like they need somebody like a third guard would be helpful.
Yeah, certainly someone who can create some separation. Obviously, create for others and get to the rim in those spots, or create for themselves, like Simons did pretty well in some of his better stints here. So it's it was fascinating to hear him bring that up. And the tools that they have to get there is, they have the mid-level, so they have $15 million there. They have a few TPs, including a big $27 million one. But they're probably not going to be able to use both of those fully, since you're hard capped when you do use either, unless you clear out a lot of salary. And so that would be a Jaylen scenario and a potential, team building scenario. And I guess these are just the stuff that comes up, Jay. These are the repercussions of when you lose a 3-1 lead. I know you lose in ugly fashion 2 years in a row in the playoffs. Like, it leads to bigger picture look at everything. And that's why we're having this conversation right now. I don't know. Is this a conversation if they lose in admirable fashion to the Knicks in round 2? Are these all still conversations we're having? Maybe they are. I don't know. That's a fascinating, what if in that situation. But it certainly brought it to the forefront based on how they went down.
100%. And I still do think, like we've talked about a million times, internal development and a full season of health for Jason Tatum will go a long way. Like, no matter what they do, you don't have to change much. You're going to be better. I don't know how many more wins that will lead to, because 56 is a lot of wins. But, from a standpoint of being more competitive in the playoffs, I think that alone would help. And then adding one more big man to play who's not Nikola Vucevic. Sorry, Vooch. You didn't cut it, bro. Didn't cut it, bro. So I think small tweaks would really help. But I also think Brad is being honest with himself about how this team might need more than just small tweaks. And the first round exit kind of shined a light on how far away the team actually was. And I think that's why you start to think about bigger things. That's why you start to think about different paths forward, and all those conversations are never easy. So they got a lot to think about. They got a lot to process. Jaylen, I mean, this will test Brad, I think. And Brad has a great way about him. Obviously, he's honest. Obviously, he's empathetic. Obviously, he treats guys with utmost respect. But also, I do think it was stunning to Jaylen Brown to be coming off the season that he had and to be as important to the locker room as he was and to be as critical on the court as he was, and then to hear, hey, man, we might move on from you. It's been a good 10 years. I think that was probably tougher for him to stomach this time than it was in 2022.
Yeah, he's come a lot further in his career than he was at that point, even coming off a finals appearance then. Like, he's made All-NBA a couple times. Obviously, he was 6th in MVP voting this year. But at the same time, Jay, it's like you were outplayed by Paul George in the first round. Like, for as good as your regular season was, like, this was not that this whole series was on him, but he was not good for a large chunk of that series and was part of the reason why that collapse happened. And so when you factor that in with what happened last year, and the fact of the matter is they can't recreate 2020-24 in the second apron era. Like, they're not going to be able to have that well-balanced a team when they're paying these guys what they are in Tatum and Brown. So if you're winning, then that's not an issue. But if you're not, then it's like, okay, can we provide the necessary upgrades around you to make this work? And if we can't, then we have to look at other things, which they are.
What a wild start to the offseason. And nothing's happened. All that happened tonight, realistically, was the Celtics selected somebody at 27. They didn't trade. They have yet to trade. They haven't made any changes. However, the Jaylen thing, the fallout of it, will be super interesting to observe and watch and just see what happens. As much as Brad said about it tonight, as obviously empathetic as he is toward Jaylen's situation, he didn't speak for Jaylen. He didn't say much of anything or anything at all about how Jaylen actually feels about all this stuff. And so, yeah, we're still kind of in the dark on how exactly Jaylen feels and how he wants to move forward with this.
That next Twitch is going to be a must-see. I hope he schedules that in 9:00 prime time on a Sunday night.
Yeah, that should be televised. Somebody needs to buy the rights.
Right? It's like, get some sponsorship for that, Jaylen. Take advantage of that. Could
bring Bill Nye the Science Guy back.
Right?
It's
all the stops.
It's yeah. It'll be really interesting to see if he does address it, what he says about it. Obviously, he and the Celtics have been through a lot together and always found their way back on the same page. But I think it gets harder the more you accomplish and the higher you get on the ladder to then see that the franchise doesn't necessarily value you the way that you value yourself or the way that you think they should value you. It's probably tough. And Celtics are dealing with that now. So that'll be fun. Enjoy it, Brad. Have fun. Good luck. Good luck. Yeah.
Is this his biggest challenge as Celtics president in your mind? As a walk-off here? He's had a few.
Ime's suspension had to be the toughest one. Because that was super explosive. Like, just personally, in a lot of ways behind the scenes. And also, that came on the heels of going to the finals. And it came right before media day, right before training camp. And Brad had to quickly decide who would be the next coach and transition the team. He chose Joe Mazzulla. That wasn't necessarily the obvious choice. In retrospect, it seems like a really fucking good one. But I would say that has to be the hardest thing he's dealt with so far. Jaylen remains under contract. Realistically, the worst thing that could possibly happen here is that Jaylen forces a trade, and then the Celtics would be able to hold sweepstakes for him and trade him for probably a really big haul. And it wouldn't be the same as keeping Jaylen, but there would be I would assume some pretty enticing paths forward if you did, hold an auction basically for Jaylen services. So yeah, I don't think, as bad as it seems right now, I think it will be okay one way or another. Hopefully Jaylen, they can just mend the fences and everything will be okay. If not, I still think the Celtics will find a way out of this and be okay. But that one was a tough one on a lot of different levels. And Stevens had to find the right guy in Joe Mazzulla, and thankfully he did. And then Brad went out and found, completed the roster with Kristaps and Drew the next year, won a championship, and then they lost a 3-1 lead, and here we are. Do you think it's the toughest thing?
Yeah, I personnel-wise, yes, I think you're right. Like the scandal, that takes precedence given all the factors involved there and how abrupt it was and how quick those changes had to come, and how high stakes that was given how much that roster really liked Ime and wanted to fight for him after that finals run. But this is tough. But I think this is a clear second. Since he hasn't had many missteps, and I don't think this is a misstep necessarily, but this is just,
we'll see. It might be.
We'll see if it is. I mean, it might be. We'll see what the return is. We'll see how Jaylen responds to it. Like this,
you could argue he's already made a misstep by even starting this whole thing in the first place.
Right. Like
that if you weren't willing to offer more for Giannis, then just stay out of it altogether. And don't ruin or don't endanger your relationship with Jaylen. Don't put Jaylen on the table. Don't go anywhere near the Giannis thing if you're not willing to give up Ugo, whatever, and get the thing across the finish line. I think you could argue that's a misstep.
Agreed.
Maybe
unless you're planning on playing him anyway and being like, this is,
yeah,
you don't have to worry about that damage control as much because we know that this is where this is going to go regardless. But I agree with you, like that, getting involved there without knowing that you're going to get to the finish line is a huge, huge gamble that could and may have already backfired.
Good times for the Celtics. We'll be here to talk about whatever comes next in this fallout. Celtics have the second round of the draft. Technically tonight, we're recording this at 2 a.m. on, it's technically Wednesday morning. So we will be recording after the second round of the draft. I believe we're set to talk to Mike Zarin after the second round of the draft. So we'll have reaction to whoever the Celtics take at 40 and whatever comes next in the Jaylen saga, which is officially a saga now. I think it's a saga. We'll call it a saga. We'll be here Monday through Friday. Subscribe if you don't already. Patreon.com/stillpotable. Otherwise, find us here on the CLNS Media Network, presented by Prize Picks, twice a week. Take care. Love you all.
Steel bottle, the Boston Celtics steel bottle, steel bottle.